Welcome back to the Operation Freedom YouTube channel. What we do here is shine the light of truth on the deep state. They hate that. We do it figuratively with our presentations. We do it literally with our sponsor's product, PatriotLegacy.com. PatriotLegacy.com, featured product of theirs, the Patriot Beacon. 6 overall lighting functions. In addition, solar powered, don't need batteries. You can charge your other devices like your phone from it. In addition, you got a compass, you got a window breaking hammer, and you got a seatbelt cutter. Plus, if those deep state dweebs get just a little bit too close to you, blast them with this. They're gone. Go to patrioticlegacy.com, patrioticlegacy.com. Get yourself, your kids, your grandkids, your car. Can carry it with you anytime. patrioticlegacy.com, the Patriot Beacon. I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to Operation Freedom Briefings. The goal of these briefings and my weekly radio show, Operation Freedom, is to provide you information the bought-off, lamestream, fake media will not touch. I hope you join us for the radio show. It's free every Sunday from 2 to 5 Eastern. All you have to do is go to davejanda.com, and right in the middle now, the homepage, we changed it around a little bit. There's a Listen Live button, and just hit that, and you'll join us for great guests, great analysis, and information that will put you ahead of the curve. It's every Sunday from 2 to 5 Eastern. In addition, we're available on this YouTube channel, Operation Freedom, and we're also available 24/7 at davejanda.com. Made some upgrades to the server situation, so you should have unfettered access to our website. We have the free side, the public side, where we upload information on a regular basis. We also have the subscription side, I believe one of the biggest bangs for the buck in all the internet, where you get not only the podcasts, if you're unable to listen to our Sunday show, subscribers have access to our podcast, but they also have access to our other shows we do every week. Our WTF Geopolitical Analysis show, where I bring information forward from my sources that I've developed over the past 30 years in Washington and in governments around the world. Secondly, we have our Insider Insight show where we bring information forward and a guest forward. This past week, we had Rosemary Gibson come forward as our special guest who spoke about the huge problem when it comes to generic and prescription grade pharmaceutical products that are being sold in our country. 90% of the raw materials of generic and prescription pharmaceuticals in our country are sourced from China. Well, that might be good from a cost standpoint, but it's bad from a safety standpoint. And in fact, there were some recent recalls of high blood pressure medication. And the recall was because the material for those medications that was sourced from China was laden with a carcinogen, a compound that could lead to cancer. In fact, in China, many of these compounds contained rocket fuel, which is a carcinogen. Rosemary explodes the whole situation of what's happening, and you're not going to see this in the mainstream media because, or bought-off lamestream fake media as I call it, because you can't watch an advertisement on a television show for 10 minutes without a pharmaceutical product being advertised. The pharmaceutical industry, Big Pharma, is one of the tentacles of the deep state. And they're also an integral player with another tentacle of the deep state, that being the bought-off lamestream fake media. They pour in huge amounts of money to the media arm of the deep state, which is why you're not going to hear a report of this nature, but you are going to hear it at davejanda.com. I hope you can become a part of our freedom family. Today's topic is President Trump versus the Deep State Shakedown. Who's getting shaken down? Well, not only President Trump, not only the freedom movement, but every American who's not part of the elite. In other words, all of us who they call useless eaters. Why do they call us useless eaters? Reportedly, they call us useless eaters because they believe we are utilizing resources, all of us that are non-elites, that were meant for just them, the elites. And it's just their benevolence that we have access to any type of resource. This is how sick these people are. I have to say, when I first started my radio show, Operation Freedom, in October of 2010, we just had our 9-year anniversary, I spoke in that first show about the deep state. Peter Dale Scott spoke about this, and he spoke about the deep state, its existence, and what it was doing to strip freedom and liberty from every person of the world. The feedback from that first show to our general manager at Wham Talk 1600, Linda Hughes, was that, well, this Janda guy had some really good guests, and it was really a good show, but he's a conspiracy theorist because he spoke about the deep state. And for years, and to this day, I still get negative feedback about the deep state does not exist. This is a figment of mine and many other people's now imagination. This is fear porn. They do not exist. Well, this past week, Margaret Brennan from CBS had a little panel convened. One person on that panel was a former acting CIA director under Bush II, John McLaughlin. He also had John Brennan there, the former director of the CIA under Obama, who we've dissected at great length in the past. There was a situation that developed where Margaret Brennan asked a question to John McLaughlin, the former acting director of the CIA. This from Sam Dorman, who reported on it. Ex-acting CIA boss expresses gratitude for deep state involvement in the impeachment inquiry. Former acting CIA director John McLaughlin indicated this past week that he was grateful for, quote, the deep state's role in promoting the impeachment inquiry into President Trump. CBS reporter Margaret Brennan had noted to McLaughlin that the origin of the impeachment inquiry likely furthered Trump's concern about the, quote, deep state, end quote. Here's what she said, quote, there is something unique you have to agree that now that the impeachment inquiry is underway, sparked by a complaint from someone within the intelligence community, it feeds the president's concern and often used term about a deep state being there to take him out, end quote. And what was McLaughlin's response? Quote, well, you know, thank God for the deep state, end quote. And then the crowd reaction of elites that were in the crowd were, oh, isn't this funny? Just hilarity, laughing and carrying on. But there is a deep state. And those who deny it are denying it in their own peril. The deep state doesn't care about anything other than itself and its existence and control and power and their voracious appetite for yet even more money, because that's what furnaces the deep state. Those who deny its existence are going to be the first of its victims, no doubt. It's like a cancer. 32 years I practiced medicine. I can tell you that when lab results came in and you had a patient that you needed to deliver those results and the results were not good, for example, with a diagnosis of cancer, there were two responses I would get. One was the person would accept the results and say, okay, now what do we do to fight this? I'm not denying that this isn't an issue, or I'm not denying that I don't have cancer. Every person who had that attitude was on the road to become a survivor. There are times you presented this information to a patient and they denied it. No, I don't have cancer. I don't have this bad illness. I'm just not going to acknowledge it, and I'm going to leave this office, and I'm fine. This is wrong. The test results are wrong. And we would say, well, get a second opinion, get a third opinion, get more testing, confirm that. No, I'm not going to do any of that because I know I am fine. that person was on a road to being in a box in 6 months. The same is true of those denying the existence of the deep state. And the deep state is essentially one big shakedown apparatus. Well, let's talk about shakedowns. The president right now is dealing with the impeachment takedown, which is based on the Ukrainian hoax takedown. The shakedown associated with the Ukraine hoax is based on someone who should not be dignified with the words whistleblower, gossip blower. This is not an individual who was on the call in July between President Trump and President Zelensky of Ukraine. Was not on the call, but got its second or third hand information that there was some disturbing information. Well, on our subscription platform, we've spoken about a number of people that were on our radar screen. And one of the names that have come up that we spoke about several weeks ago on our platform was this Eric Ciaramella. Now, Ciaramella was initially involved in the Obama administration and then was a holdover, not sure why actually, that's another issue, with the Trump administration. But a big shout out should go to independent journalists who were the first to out this information. And in particular, one of the first people that I saw in the independent media speaking about Eric Ciaramella was back in much earlier in October. First week or two in October was Greg Rubini. Greg Rubini zeroed in on Eric Ciaramella. And I must say, when I spoke to my sources about that, he was one of the people on the radar list. But Greg Rubini had circled right in on him. And then of late, Paul Sperry, around October 30th, October 31st, started speaking about Eric Ciaramella. Let's talk about Eric Ciaramella. He was a top Democrat operative. He was employed by the CIA. It appears he is the gossip blower who filed the complaint on August 12th over President Trump's July 25th phone call with Ukraine President Zelensky. In that phone call, President Trump, as you know, circumvented this entire goat rodeo of an impeachment process by releasing the transcript. And remember, this past week, Adam Schiff, one of his star witnesses, was going to be an individual from the National Security Council by the name of Tim Morrison, who was on the call. He wasn't second or third hand. He was on the call. And he testified this past week, and Schiff had it set up that, well, he's going to talk about how President Trump abused the situation and he was wrong. Morrison got in front of the closed-door committee in the basement of the Capitol building, and what did he say? There was nothing wrong with the phone call. There was nothing illegal in the phone call. There were no alarm bells in that phone call. Everything was above board and done appropriately. Took a lot of wind out of Schiff's sails, but you'd never know that through the bought-off mainstream fake media. But this Ciaramella, who wasn't on the call, who was just getting gossip, is the one who came forward. History of being a top Democrat operative. Worked for Brennan, Deep State dweeb, who's been acting awfully crazy of late, maybe more than of late. He's been off the rails for decades. He worked for Brennan at the CIA. Ciaramella had a tie to a 2020 candidate, and that 2020 candidate being Joe Biden. Ciaramella coordinated and took guidance from Adam Schiff's staff. And Schiff, who's supposedly conducting this goat rodeo of a hearing, lied about it. Do you think that the wrong person is being discussed about impeachment? Why isn't impeachment of Schiff being discussed? Should be. Schiff's staff recommended attorneys for this so-called gossip blower. Ciaramella history, had been previously kicked out of the White House under the Trump administration for leaking negative stories about Donald Trump as far back as 2017. Ciaramella reportedly was behind the story, the fake story that Putin told Trump to fire Comey, and that's why Trump fired Comey. That was a fake story Ciaramella provided to the bought-off lamestream fake media in 2017, which, as I understand it, was the reason why he was ushered out of the White House 2 years ago. Ciaramella's attorneys who are representing him worked for Clapper, Hillary Clinton, Chuck Schumer, and, by the way, those same attorneys donated to, Joe Biden. Ciaramella worked with Biden in the executive branch when he was vice president during the Obama administration. Ciaramella, in fact, traveled with Joe Biden to the Ukraine, as I understand it, on at least 2 of the 6 trips that Biden went to Ukraine. Ciaramella worked with DNC operative Alexandra Chalupa in the creation of the Trump-Russian collusion hoax. Same players, Brennan, Ciaramella, Chalupa, same ones that were involved in this Ukraine hoax are the same ones that were involved in the fake Russian collusion hoax. And remember, it goes all the way back to the illegal surveillance that Brennan and Clapper were involved with Obama through their parallel platforms, one of which was this Hammer platform that was used to illegally surveil government officials and American citizens in order to gain leverage information as it relates to emails, phone calls, internet activities, and financial transactions. They're all the same players all the way through. All, I believe, involved in sedition of a duly elected president of the United States. So this Ukraine hoax has been fabricated by the deep state as a shakedown operation of the Constitution, essentially. Just look at how Pelosi's handling this impeachment issue. She keeps talking about an impeachment inquiry. That's what they voted on last week. That's far different from voting on articles of impeachment. Just go back to when Clinton was impeached. They voted on articles of impeachment. Why? Because it gives an individual who's being targeted with impeachment, it gives them legal opportunities to defend themselves, to produce witnesses, to produce evidence, to cross-examine those accusing the individual of impeachment. It's due process. But there is no due process in this impeachment inquiry. Many legal scholars have weighed in on that. It's a shakedown. It's a shakedown of freedom. It's a shakedown of not just Donald Trump. It's a shakedown of the Constitution. But when we want to talk about another aspect of this Ukraine shakedown, why don't we look at what President Trump was discussing with President Zelensky on that July 25th phone call. His discussion was not about 2020. It was about 2016. And the corruption associated with that election by members of the Obama administration. How do we know that? As we've outlined before, the word CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike was the company that produced that report for, I think, $1 million they were paid for through the DNC and the Hillary Clinton campaign, to say that, the servers, which apparently are now housed in Ukraine, that the FBI never looked at, that Mueller's group, that Goat Rodeo group, never looked at. Crowdsource was the one who put a draft report forward saying, it was hacked. And then didn't produce any evidence about how they knew it was hacked. And it was only a draft report. Well, the DNC, Hillary Clinton campaign paid for that result. And CrowdStrike appears to be at the hub of some of the 2016 election interference as it relates to Ukraine trying to influence the election to benefit Hillary Clinton. But the real Ukraine shakedown really was centered on the Bidens, wasn't it? Hunter Biden, with no experience in the natural gas or oil industry, sat on the board of Burisma, was placed there. His retainer was, what, $50,000, $80,000 a month? Huge bucks. For a guy who got kicked out of the Navy, a guy who had a drug problem, a guy who has all kinds of other problems. And then we have Joe Biden speaking at that globalist confab, the Council on Foreign Relations. Look, anyone associated with the Council on Foreign Relations, be very careful. They're globalists. You know, this individual, Tulsi Gabbard, she's a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Don't let her fool you. So are a lot of players in the Republican Party, right? Bushes. Nah. Joe Biden at the Council on Foreign Relations confab, you've probably seen the video, where he brags about, I was in Ukraine and I told him, you get rid of this prosecutor, Shotkin, who's investigating stuff. What was he investigating? Burisma, the company that Hunter Biden was placed on the board for, right? Yeah, I told him, you got 6 hours before I leave. And you know what? If Shotkin isn't gone, you're not going to get your aid. Well, wait a minute. Isn't this what they're accusing President Trump of? Yeah, but what's come forward, again, what this Morrison testified to, this guy from the National Security Council who was going to be the star witness for Adam Schiff, and it blew up in Schiff's face this past week when Morrison said, there wasn't any problem with that phone call. Morrison also said that the Ukraine government was unaware that any aid was being held up for at least until the end of August. And the phone call occurred in July. You want a shakedown. It was Joe Biden shaking down Ukraine and their leaders by saying, if you don't fire that guy who's investigating the company that's associated with my kid, if you don't fire him, you're not going to get your aid. There is a deep state shakedown. And this is what the deep state does. They accuse President Trump. Players in the deep state that accuse us and independent journalists of doing things. They mirror, right? They take what they're guilty of and they accuse us. They're accusing President Trump of something that Biden and the deep state was guilty of. That's called mirroring. It's also called projection. The deep state is pros at that. They are pros at it. You want another shakedown? How about that Uranium One shakedown that Hillary doesn't want you to know about? What was that shakedown? Well, and Obama was involved in that as well. Wonder how good old Barack can afford that beautiful new mansion on the ocean in Hyannisport. Yeah, here's a shakedown. We're going to get you 20% of the uranium supply, Russia. And, you're going to have my hubby, Bill, give a speech, hour speech, maybe less than an hour, 50 minutes, for $500,000 at the bank that worked out this Uranium One deal. Yeah, same. And by the way, you're going to donate $145 million to the Clinton Foundation. Now, there's a shakedown. 20% of the uranium supply of the United States goes to Russia, and the money goes to the Clinton Foundation and to Bill Clinton $500,000 for giving a talk, and God knows who else had their hands out in that pie. But it sure wasn't going back to the American public. There's a deep state shakedown. Or how about early in the Obama administration, the Fast and Furious shakedown? That was another shakedown, right? Where weapons were purchased by drug cartels through the United States. No, with the administration, this was an operation run by Holder and Obama. Holder then being the Attorney General, knowing full well that innocent individuals on both sides of the Mexican-American border were going to die. Thousands died on the Mexican side from those weapons sales. And some agents actually died in the United States. But what was the shakedown there? Well, I'll tell you what. Cartels. This is Obama and Holder. We're going to sell you these arms, okay? And we want you to cause some chaos. Deep State's all about chaos. And we want you to cause all kinds of gun violence. And then we can use that to shake down the American public to get more stringent restrictions, if you will, on their Second Amendment rights. There's a shakedown. Or how about the shakedown that is really all about Washington, D.C.? Lobbying, right? Lobbyists give money to every politician. And then what does that politician do? They give those same corporations or organizations the votes they need, the legislation they need and want. It's one big shakedown. It's a swamp, but it's a shakedown swamp. And ultimately, the individuals that are getting shaken down the most is every American citizen. Look at it this way. All of us American taxpayers, we work hard. We are taxed too much. The taxes go to the government. And then that government produces very little value for that money, in my opinion. But they take some of our hard-earned money and they put it in the foreign aid silo. And they send that foreign aid to, let's say in this case, Ukraine. And then what does Ukraine do? Ukraine launders that money back to those politicians. Like how? Look at Hunter Biden. Right? Biden, on tape, says, we're going to hold back aid unless you stop that investigation that's looking into the company that my kid's on the board for and getting paid $80,000 a month or $50,000 a month or $60,000 a month or whatever it was. Joe Biden wasn't cutting that check for the aid. You and I were. So what happens is that they take, the politicians, the deep state puppets, take the money that we give them in taxes. They launder it through foreign aid, and some of that money comes back to them. So is it any wonder why these cats are making, let's say, $150,000, which is a lot of money, and they're there for 10 years, and they retire with $40 million in the bank? It's impossible to do that based on the salaries they have. And the only way they can do that is by shaking down you and me. Go back to Hillary. From LifeSet, Ukraine donated the most cash of any country to the Clinton Foundation. Here we go again. Ukraine, what? Clinton Foundation's deep financial ties to Ukrainian oligarch revealed. Between 2009 and 2013, including when Mrs. Clinton was Secretary of State, the Clinton Foundation received at least $8.6 million from Viktor Pinchuk Foundation, which is based in Kiev, Ukraine. So, Pinchuk is a big business guy. So you think maybe some of that aid went to Pinchuk's companies and then was laundered back to the Clinton Foundation for the deals that were set up? In 2008, Mr. Pinchuk made a 5-year, $29 million commitment to the Clinton Global Initiative, a wing of the Clinton Foundation. Yep. It's one big money laundering operation. It's one big shakedown. And the people getting shaken down are you and me and every American taxpayer. And I believe this is the reason why President Trump has been targeted by the deep state. Because he's threatening their shakedown business model. It's all about money. It's all about power. And it's all about control. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for your time. I hope you'll join us at davejanda.com. We're there for you on the free side, the public side, but I hope you'll become a part of our Freedom family and have access to all the extra guests we have, all the extra analysis, all the information, our healthcare policy series that I don't know of any other healthcare policy series in the existence of the internet or in the alternative or lamestream media. It's about your healthcare freedom. We have our contributing editor section. We have our Insider Insight show, our WTF geopolitical show. We have all the archives for all those shows. We have our podcast from our radio show available for you. Hope you'll become a part of our family. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail. Thank you for your time today.